Penguin Random House Audio presents The Ambassador's Wife by Jennifer Steil, read for you by Orlagh Cassidy and Euan Morton. September 17th, 2010. As she curls herself around the wasted body of a stranger's child, cupping the tiny head in her hand, the remembered glow of a painting emerges unbidden from the gloom of Miranda's mind. A woman sleeps in a boat, reclined in her husband's arms and draped alongside the body of her sleeping child, bathed in a benediction of pale light. Around them are dark water and a darker shore. The woman's body is limp, trusting, abandoned to its fate. Opposite the slumbering family, fortune plies the oars with the assistance of a hopeful Cupid. Something about the image, the family's relinquishing of control over their destiny, fills Miranda with terror. They drift, serenely dreaming, into darkness. "Wake," she wants to cry to them. "Wake up and take an oar." Fortune and Cupid are unreliable guides. As the baby tugs at her breast, Miranda gazes down at her with dull eyes, trying to remember the name of the painting. What was it? The child whimpers. As the nipple slips away from her mouth, she is too weak to suck for long. The dream of happiness. That was it. Constance Mayer's dream of happiness. She who had known so little of it in her own life. When Miranda thinks back on her brief life with Cressida and Finn, this is the image that keeps returning to her. A moment of blissful unconsciousness, and then black. Part 1. August 9th, 2010. Miranda. Miranda watches her left hand move across her sketch pad, as if unsure of its destination. Up it swoops, leaving a sooty trail across the thick white paper. Then across to the right, down again, across. A frame. The pencil lifts from the page for a moment, hovering in midair as her eyes turn toward the window. Dawn arrives abruptly in Mazruk, the sky slipping from black to gold in the few seconds it took Miranda to pour a cup of coffee. Their garden is already gilded, its vast lawn glittering with last night's rain, its neat rows of flowers unclenching and tilting toward the sun. Along the periphery is a procession of crooked trees, leaning against the iron spikes of the gates like tired sentries. Bougainvillea crawls up the walls and thrusts its blooms through the bars, unwilling to be contained. Across the far end of the grass stretches the pool, as yet undisturbed by morning swimmers. The sky, as always at this hour, is a relentless, cloudless blue. Miranda's view of this paradise, this oasis of theirs in this desert country, is partitioned into 8 nearly equal parts by wrought iron bars. Painted white, they form a lace-like scrim across the window. The ornate metal curlicues strive to disguise their utilitarian nature, but fail. Her hand has gone back to work. The iron bars unfurl across her page, but as they would be seen from outside. For behind the bars is not a garden, but a girl, a woman, vivisected, her head framed here, her heart here, here her hand, and here her mouth. Drawing, Miranda often feels like an adolescent, toying with a Ouija board, wondering to what degree she subconsciously controls the movements of its indicator. Simultaneously creator and conduit, she can rarely predict exactly what will emerge. So absorbed is she in her puzzle pieces that she doesn't hear the alarm at first. How long has it been buzzing? She hasn't yet touched the mug of coffee on the table in front of her, or made Finn's cup of tea. Barefoot, she runs down the hall to their bedroom and lunges for the alarm on Finn's bedside table. Why had they set the alarm? They have a child. They do not need an alarm. Then she remembers. The policemen. The policemen are still here, which means she has to dress for breakfast. Pausing by the bed, she listens. Nothing. Cressida still safely asleep. "Sweetheart?" Gently, she shakes Finn's shoulder, kisses his eyelids. "I'm awake," he says. Clearly not. I'm wide awake." He says this without moving, without opening an eye. Finn is not a morning person. On weekdays he rises at 6 a.m. to eat breakfast before heading to the embassy by 7:30. But on weekends, he'll sleep all day if she doesn't wake him. "I'll get your tea." In the little private kitchen between their room and Cressida's, where she habitually spends the first hour of the day with her sketchpad, Miranda brews a mug of Earl Grey. Finn won't drink her coffee. She makes it too strong. After leaving his tea on the side table by his still motionless head, she returns to the kitchen for her own mug. At best, she gets an hour of blissful solitude, but today she has only 20 minutes before she needs to scramble into a sundress. She rarely has the luxury of solitary mornings once she leaves the relative privacy of their upstairs suite. By the time she slips down the marble staircase, their Ethiopian housekeeper, Nagazi, will be busy in the kitchen, slicing mangoes and melons, peeling pomegranates, and brewing coffee. Bird-like Desta will have already begun polishing the downstairs bathrooms. And Jonas and Semere will be pulling up weeds in the flower beds and tending to their vegetable patches. Miranda wouldn't have thought much would take root in the cracked earth of this arid city, but their figs, lettuce, broccoli, tomatoes, and rhubarb thrive. By the time Miranda and Finn have finished their muesli and fruit, swallowed the last of their coffee or tea, and wiped their mouths with the rainbow-striped cloth napkins, Teru will be in the kitchen, slowly turning the pages of their cookbooks as she writes her shopping list. Though often deprived of solitude, Miranda is awash in other luxuries. She doesn't have to cook, she doesn't do her own laundry, and best of all, she doesn't have to leave the house unless she wants to. She can paint all day, or play with her daughter, or stare out the window and daydream. But there's no more time for dreaming today. Miranda finishes her coffee, then pads to their bathroom to brush her teeth. There are 2 sinks, 2 cabinets, 2 toothbrush holders, his and hers everything, plus a bath, hers, and a shower, his. She wakes up every morning and cannot believe this is her life. Sitting on the toilet, she thinks, "My God, I live here." Even after 3 years, it still hasn't sunk in. Though it should, when she has a choice of 7 or so toilets to use. Still brushing, she wanders down the hall to their daughter's room. Cressida lies on her back in what Miranda refers to as the surrender position, her arms thrown above her head and her chubby knees splayed open. Insulated from the chill of the desert night by her blue and white checked flannel pajamas, she breathes deeply, her round little tummy straining against the buttons at regular intervals. She is a good sleeper, Cressida. Has been from her 4th month, when she began sleeping through the night. Miranda was prepared for years of interrupted nights, but it hasn't happened. She finds herself keeping this information from other mothers, feeling guilty for having such an easy child. And not only does she have an easy child, but she has help, whenever she wants it. She makes a mental note that she must never allow herself to complain about anything, ever again. Back in the bathroom, she washes her face with frankincense-scented soap and runs wet fingers through her tangled curls before Finn finally staggers in, spiky-haired and sleepy. "Policeman this morning," she reminds him. "Last day." "Romantic dinner for 2 tonight, then?" He smiles, his arms circling her waist. "I wish, but you've got the EU ambassadors tonight, remember?" "Damn ambassadors." "I don't know. Some of them aren't so bad." Finn turns her face to him, and she presses her cheek against the soft hairs of his chest. She has never felt so lucky. Currently, there are 3 policemen, Scotland Yard hostage negotiators, in their guest rooms. Not the kind of company she'd had in her old life. In her old life, in the house she'd once shared with Vicenta in the old city, she had taken in students, writers, photographers, rock climbers, adventurers, and the occasional tourist. They filled the void Vicenta left in her wake. Her guests came from all over the world, drifting in and out of her house, staying for days, weeks, months. Sometimes one of them would make dinner. Sometimes one would share a bottle of bootleg scotch. but they were generally self-sufficient.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?